Hello, New Mexico, and welcome to another episode of Around the Roundhouse, a podcast featuring the policies, politics, and enchanting personalities of the land of enchantment from the Roundhouse and beyond. My name is Daniel Chacón, and I'm the state government reporter for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our guest this week is Roger Montoya, a former state representative and co-founder of the nonprofit Moving Arts Española. Mr. Montoya founded the organization in 2007 as a way to help children process trauma through art and was recognized in 2019 as a CNN hero for his visionary programming. The nonprofit is featured in a new documentary that has received multiple accolades, including being named a 2025 Cannes World Film finalist. Mr. Montoya is getting ready for the world premiere of the documentary at the Lenzic Performing Arts Center in Santa Fe, where he is now, and was generous enough to carve out some time to join us today on Around the Roundhouse. Mr. Montoya, I know you've got your hands full and time is running out, so thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mr. Montoya, tell us a little bit about the documentary and how it got started.
The documentary setting Hearts Ablaze was created by an organization called DocuFilms, and they seek out nonprofits and organizations that are doing great work in New Mexico, and they lift them up through in-kind work. And they visited us and said, this is a wonderful organization. We'd love to make a film to help tell your story and move you to the next level. And boy, have they ever. It was a delight to work with Michael Campbell from DocuFilms.
What was the process like, and how long did it take?
They did a little bit of pre-work and visiting and scouting, which was about a week or two, and then the filming was over about 12 days.
Oh,
yeah, it was rather tidy, and we have a wonderful nonprofit of about 16,000 square feet and 350 kids a week and multiple art forms, and so it was a real smorgasbord of visuals for them to really compose and construct this beautiful documentary that honors our work.
And sir, I'm guessing that you've seen the documentary. What was your overall impression?
When my partner Salvador and I first saw it, we were just silenced by this idea that our work was being interpreted through the eyes of others, because when we're in the daily machinations of work, it's very intense in nonprofit. To be able to see a vision of what we do was just so heartwarming. And this notion that the next generation of leadership that will take the reins of Moving Arts one day are clearly elevated in this film.
Mr. Montoya, I know I gave a little bit of an introduction of what Moving Arts Española does, but what does it do? When folks ask you what the nonprofit does, how do you explain what it is?
We save lives, literally, in a place like Española, where many challenges, social ills are full-bodied. This notion of art as medicine, we've created a safe space for youth development. We use creative-based learning, hands-on projects that are really engaging, where young people can rely on themselves, their peers, and the community of mentors to really lift them up and help them find a pathway to higher education, future success, some sense of identity and belonging that's deeply missing for many rural New Mexicans, between the ages of 3 to 26. So it's a really an interesting array of offerings, the performing arts, visual arts, culinary arts, digitally based arts, a whole smorgasbord of opportunity.
Fantastic. And Mr. Montoya, it really seems that your life's work has revolved around youth prevention programs. What was your motivation? I mean, what is your driving force?
When I moved back from New York City after a career in LA, New York, this was circa 1989, and I looked around at the beautiful children here in New Mexico, and I thought, my goodness, if they had one piece of the opportunity that was given to me, being raised in more of an urban center, I thought, this could be really something, because they just don't have the opportunity. And the beautiful mix of cultural languages, our history here in Nuevo Mexico, in my opinion, is a very special alchemy to create a dynamic young leader. And so I saw the potential. We set up shop 35 years ago and haven't stopped.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you about a community-based pilot program that, as I understand, addresses the lack of opportunity for youth who have been involved in the justice system to pivot toward a more productive life. Tell us a little bit about the program and whether or not you've had success.
We are formalizing a beautiful partnership between the First Judicial District Attorney's Office and UNM School of Sociology and Criminology in standing up what is essentially a prosecution-led diversion program for youth before they're at that precipice of crossing the line of criminal justice. The idea of destigmatizing and creating a restorative justice model centered in our ethos, which is art is medicine, where mentorship and peer belonging are really looking at the restorative justice moments to help young people course correct before it's too late.
Mr. Montoya, what would you say to critics who say it's a program that's soft on crime?
I would say absolutely not. You know, the duty we have as elected officials, as citizens, as just human beings, to give every soul an opportunity to course correct. We know that our world is rife with challenges that really move young people into all sorts of pathways. And to have the opportunity to help them find a positive one is my life's duty. I mean, I see it as a perfect way to, when you look at the cost, you know, of incarceration, financially, spiritually, to the family unit, the destructive nature of that whole system. If we can move young people away from that and into a life of creativity and productivity, it's priceless. So that's how I answer. You know, this is our duty as human beings to really look at the opportunity for young people, regardless of what they've done. Their minds and brains are not fully developed. You know, to criminalize them is not the correct way, in my opinion.
Well, there's been a push here in New Mexico to try to increase penalties for violent juvenile offenders. Is that the right approach?
The young people that we are dealing with through Pivot, which is our program here, they are not of that ilk. You know, we have carefully found a body of young people who perhaps, if they stay on the course, could become serious criminal offenders.
Mhm.
But these are misdemeanors and felons that place them at the precipice of the criminal justice system. So this is pre-prosecution, and it's the direct intent of the DA's office to move those young people to a safer lane before they would cross over. So to answer your question, you know, young people who have established, you know, crimes that are really heavy,
Mhm.
I think there are ways to manage them and to serve them that are more appropriate, where the criminal justice system is an obvious remedy, if you will. But this population we're serving through Pivot is really pre-prosecution, lesser crimes. It's more of a behavioral health intervention mixed through creative art making that helps them find that new pathway.
Okay. Mr. Montoya, I believe you mentioned earlier that Moving Arts Española has been around for 35 years. Is that correct?
I've been doing this type of work for 35 years. This particular version, I've had 7 nonprofits that all sort of morphed and folded into what is today Moving Arts Española. We're in our 18th year in the Española Valley, and we've reached over 5,000 young people between the ages of 3 to 26. And 110 of those have moved on to the New Mexico School for the Arts and are doing extraordinary work in the fields of healthcare and criminal justice reform and teachers, education. It's just beautiful to see that we had a small role in crafting a pathway for the young people that we were lucky and honored to have taught.
Well, full transparency here. You have touched many lives, young people's lives, including my stepkids who have participated in programming at Moving Arts Española. So I just wanted to say that. But one of the reasons that I asked you about Moving Arts Española is because, if I'm not mistaken, you all are on a month-to-month lease at your location in Okeowinge. What's the update with, finding a new place for Moving Arts?
Yeah, it's going on 2 years now that we've been searching for an appropriate campus that can hold the scale and vision of our current program and the future programming. And it's been very difficult because we're insistent on staying in the Española Valley, where our tribal communities and where the need is so critical. But we have just recently, in the last 9-10 weeks, located a property that's in Santa Fe County, but within the city jurisdiction of Española, with access to the pueblos. And it's a former elementary school. It was zoned institutional. It's in Santa Fe County. The county is very excited about the potential of the community services that we provide and being able to support us in that realm, and the potential to drive capital outlay dollars to reactivate this campus that was initiated the year I was born in 1961. So it has some serious work to be done. But the vision is so clear that we want to see this go on into perpetuity with a new generation of leaders who are already on deck, so to speak. We have 45 employees, and over half of them are young people that came back, alumni, with degrees and the vision and the sense of responsibility to take the reins to ensure that Moving Arts is there for the next generation and the following generation. And it's very humbling to see that.
I'm going to guess that you're going to have to do some fundraising to get that building into shape.
Very much so. We have some really formidable partners. The Yogi Bhajan Sikh community in northern New Mexico, they're in Sombrillo, which is just a little suburb of Española. They are the owners of the property, and I have to say, they have been so mission aligned. They have been so visionary in understanding how best to create a partnership that will serve both of the partnerships, theirs and ours, and then include partners like the county of Santa Fe, as well as the city of Española, in really understanding how to make the best possible campus for the present and the future.
And how can folks in the community help you out?
Well, this evening, by the time this airs, I think our show will be done, but there's a world premiere of Setting Hearts Ablaze and a debut of 49 performers from our youth company in violin, guitarra, ballet, folklorico, flamenco, taking the stage, and that's going to be our sort of opening tonight. But movingartsespañola.org is our website, and there will be ample opportunities for the public to look into our organization and perhaps contribute in ways, volunteerism, of course, financial, advisory. It's going to take architects, it's going to take a whole broad team to really realize the vision over the next 5 years. I would say by the time we get everything in line and reactivate some 30,000 square feet of former elementary school campus up to code so that we can actually use the building. And then the longer term vision is to create a theater, a beautiful performing arts center, and a space for our gymnasts. We have over 250 young people studying gymnastics. And it's a beautiful way to really create a powerful young person. And so we want to have those larger facilities constructed on the property in conjunction with the existing classroom space.
Well, good luck, and I hope you can get it done. And given your track record, I have a feeling that you will. I know time is running short, but I wanted to ask you about your time in the legislature. It's been a couple of years, or a few years, I should say, since you served in public office. Do you miss it?
I made wonderful friends and I saw tremendous examples of elected leadership while I was there and had great mentors. So I miss them and I miss the lessons I learned because the construct of elected governmental leadership is huge. The responsibility to really serve your district from a deep and powerful and meaningful way was really where I came from. More as a social worker, I think I had more of the idea that my work in nonprofit would have a really good resonance in that space. And I think I was a little naive. The world of politics is a lot of things, and it sometimes doesn't. The policies don't meet the people in ways that one might think they could, and I think I came in with that. Um, so do I miss it? No, I think I'm really, really happy, rooted back in a place in nonprofit where one can measure and see the results daily and really lay my head down on the pillow every night and go, you know what? We fed 250 families today. I saw 16 youth premiere a film of their work. High school graduates are in the culinary program, and those kinds of results are tangible in a state like New Mexico where our people are beloved. The population is small, but the impact by governmental policies are not nearly uh, in compliance, if you will, with what the need is. And so if I can be part of more direct services, I think I will end my life a happy man.
All right.
And the political world was not quite that for me.
It's not for everybody, that's for sure. Mr. Montoya, did you seek out to, I mean, was that your goal to run for public office, or how did that happen?
No, it never crossed my mind. I've been so immersed for the last 35 years in this direct service through youth development programs and creative based learning that it wasn't until the CNN Hero acknowledgement happened in 2019 and we were suddenly nationally recognized, internationally recognized, and the national delegation, our governor at the time, the Speaker of the House, were urging me for months on end to run for office. And at first it was like, no, like absolutely not. But over the months of begging and meeting with me personally, and then the passing of my dear mother, she was very ill with fourth stage cancer, and she passed just before I was elected. The last conversation I had with her, she said, "Well, if you really want to do this, son, go for it. It will not be easy, but because of your commitment, you will have success. You have my blessing." And I think that was when I took the leap of faith to say yes to public service in an elected manner. And I ended up winning and served for 2 years, where I was really on the Courts and Corrections Committee, and Health and Human Services was the biggest place that I felt comfortable.
Mhm.
And I tried really hard to look at equity around rural infrastructure and uniting the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and just humans, in lifting up rural New Mexico and claiming the kind of investment that we have not had since the Eisenhower administration in terms of infrastructure investment. The Biden administration was putting forth the infrastructure bill and it hadn't passed yet, but I had the good wisdom to think that it might. So that's where I really tried to drive change. I thought if our roads and bridges and access to internet and water could be improved, then rural areas could build the infrastructure and therefore the services to lift the social determinants of health to a level where we could see clear change for our veterans and our children and our students seeking higher education and on and on. But 2 years wasn't enough. And I don't think there was an appetite for bipartisan work. Sadly, it broke my heart that there wasn't this notion that the humans in our state matter. It was more like, oh, we cannot work with them and we cannot work with them. And so we're not going to get anywhere. And I think that was my biggest challenge in the Roundhouse, was sitting and watching the leadership from the rostrum really not acting like an adult. There was a lot of really childish bickering and fighting and sort of diminishing of each other in the space where at the same time New Mexicans across our state were suffering,
Mhm.
not having the services. And I thought, this is a real contradiction for my heart and soul, that we as electeds are sitting in this glorious building with all the pomp and circumstance of policymaking and actually doing very little. It really broke my heart. I think that was the saddest part of leaving office, was that that is not a place for me to invest in. Now, other people I admire, and they are contributing in a way that is making a difference, but it just simply wasn't for me.
Mr. Montoya, you mentioned that you had served one term. Why do you think it was that you lost re-election?
Well, there was a large fire in our district, the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire, and Mora was kind of in the centerpiece of that. And that was one of the communities, beloved communities, that I was serving. And at the time, I think our governor and the leadership at the state level was insistent that the federal government had ignited that fire. And so, with all due respect, we were following the federal protocol of evacuations, et cetera. But there was this contradictions that the local people did not want to leave. I'd say more
Mhm.
than 100. And so I was, as a legislator on the ground, was trying to figure out, okay, how do we navigate all of these pieces and still care for the people most in danger at that moment in a beautiful setting, like a revered, historic, the mountains of Mora. I mean, it doesn't get much more quintessentially Nuevo Mexico.
Yes.
But our governor and the leadership did not see eye to eye. They really wanted the citizens to evacuate, to go to the high school gyms,
Mhm.
whereby hundreds of families had gone voluntarily to hotels where they were running out of money. They had no food, they had no medications. This is an ailing population,
Mhm.
poverty stricken in many cases. And so I dove in and started, fundraising, because I couldn't get the state to kind of cover those costs and help us evacuate and get people to a place where they were actually comfortable being in the state's most historic and tragic fire in our history. So thankfully, Mayor Keller came to the rescue and helped us evacuate, many, many hundreds of families. There was a COVID outbreak. I got COVID. And I think that that was really the place where I knew that it wasn't about reelection. It wasn't about necessarily following the rules. Keeping people safe was absolutely my my goal, but I knew that it was more nuanced, that it required me to literally, show up with every piece that I could and deploy every mechanism to continue to feed, to make people comforted, and to get them to a place of dignity through this tragedy. So Mayor Keller helped. The fire, I knew at that point that FEMA was never going to be able to do the full job. It's a broken system. It's a federal system. Yes, the Biden administration, millions of dollars were allocated, but today, years later, that community is still struggling. What I was insisting at that time with our state government is, we have this excess of severance dollars, billions of dollars sitting in a bank. I said, why can't we deploy some of that initially? Help, yes, the federal government, it was their fault. Maybe coupled, we'll be able to find the kind of dignity and remedy that our people deserve and rebuild. But there was a real resistance to that. It
Mhm.
was more of an inclination to blame the federal government than to say, okay, we're going to take care of our New Mexicans. And I had a real contradiction with that. And I think that was part and parcel of why I was not elected. I was seen more as a troublemaker and somebody that was putting the state at risk rather than doing the social work that I knew had to be done in the moment.
Okay.
So it was a conflict of my values. That's one description. But again, it it was a lessons learned, and I'm back to a place where I can serve and measure that work.
Yes, sir. So we can kind of one of my takeaways here is that politics is not in your future. Another round of politics is not in your future, or is it?
No, no, I cannot see myself in an elected role in this lifetime, maybe in the next. Um, there's something to be said for actually feeding the person and holding someone and helping them through the struggles that are so common and too common in a place like New Mexico, that I think that my skills and my heart are better utilized with the time I have left on the planet in nonprofit work.
Okay. Mr. Montoya, it seems that every once in a while I bump into you in the community out in northern New Mexico. And one of my favorite stories is I was coming back from visiting my mom up north, and I saw you on the side of the road painting a beautiful, beautiful landscape of Abiquiu. Do you still get a chance to go out and paint?
More and more I'm returning. About 12 years ago, when moving arts became so incredibly important and grew so exponentially, there was less and less time. But
Mhm.
as I'm getting older and my eyesight is starting to get a little wonky, I am getting out and painting again, and it's a beautiful thing. I think one of the last things my mother said before she passed was, "Don't forget to paint."
Mm.
I remember you as a child really being in your space of healing and beauty when you did your artwork, and I don't want that to end. So, in tribute to her and to my talent, I will be back on the roads painting again in the beautiful New Mexico landscape.
Fantastic. Well, I hope I get to bump into you again. Mr. Montoya, thank you so much for making time out of your, again, very busy schedule to join us on Around the Roundhouse. And my thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in as well. Join us every week as we talk to newsmakers in the political realm by subscribing to our podcast through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. For the latest developments, go to santafenewmexican.com, where you can also subscribe to our political newsletter, The Roundhouse Report. Until next time, I'm Daniel Chacón, and this has been Around the Roundhouse.